Welcome to the Ignite Your Life podcast. Here we interview successful people who are living a life filled with adventure, excitement and fun. Learn where they've been, explore where they are going, see what gets them out of bed in the morning, find out what drives them. We will go through their lowest points and we will look at the opportunities and possibilities that are now presenting to them. Come on a journey of ignition. I'm your host, Leanne Blaney. For more information, go to ignitepodcast.com. Let's ignite. Tracey Gromen is a self-mastery coach and healer. Tracey helps mums embrace their next chapter of themselves, helping them unlearn dysfunctional patterns that keep them in overwhelm, stress and anxiety. As they release these patterns, they learn how to feel great in their own skin, and they connect deeply to themselves and their family. Hi Tracey, welcome to the Ignite Your Life podcast.
Hi Leanne, thanks so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, you're really welcome. I'm excited about hearing about your story. So shall we get started?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. All right. Do you want to tell us a bit about where you are now? What's actually happening for you right now?
Right now, what's happening for me is massive expansion. And it's happening in the way of, they always say new level, new devil, right? And so if you're getting ready to up-level any area of your life, you will really meet a lot of your greatest resistance and things that you thought that you've worked on and things that you thought that you've healed come up in a new facet. And so interestingly, I am expanding. Not only am I expanding, but my entire family is. My husband, I have 3 teen boys, and everybody is moving into this massive state of expansion. So what's happening in my house right now and with me right now is not only am I working through my own resistance and really delving in to understand that on a deeper level. What's happening is everybody in my family is also meeting theirs. And so what has happened for me in the past is I've had my experiences ahead of time because my experiences tend to mirror what my family is going to go through. And so I have that, gap is the best way to explain it. I have this gap to tend to my own quote unquote stuff so that I am ready to help them through theirs. What's happening right now in our house is everything is converging all at the same time. And so it's been really, really interesting to allow this ebb and this flow of understanding and moving and healing my own resistant energy, and also being there to hold space for them, but knowing that because we have actually worked together so much in the past, I've actually had to step back and watch them kind of flounder around in their own energy without reaching in and going, I got you. Mm-hmm. And so it's been a learning experience. My kids are proving once again to be my best teachers. Honestly, right now, they're really teaching me of really honoring that ebb and that flow and really understanding that sometimes stepping back and just letting things play out. I'm usually one of those head in, let's go. And so it's been really interesting because like I said, right now, my entire family is going through this up-leveling. And so we're all really meeting our own individual resistant energy as a family unit. And so it's been interesting to witness and to be a part of.
Yeah, fantastic. So what's your story? Where have you been to actually get to this point?
Well, I always, so I call myself a self-mastery coach and healer. And the reason why that is because I've had to really take a lot of time. I've probably spent the last 8 years in my own self-mastery practice to really understand basically my own bottom of the basement energy that likes to rise up and thwart progress and sabotage. It really all started back in 2011 when my immune system crashed. I was actually running away from grief I was experiencing from the sudden loss of my father in 2009 because I didn't have a solid self-mastery practice. I didn't have a lot of self-emotional intelligence. I stuffed down all my emotions. And because I wasn't willing to actually meet the mental emotional trauma and the grief that I was experiencing from it, I just kept on doing. I knew that something wasn't feeling right in my world, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And quite honestly, everything else in my world was going really good. And so as a person that is a high achiever, a person that is at that time a total control freak, a perfectionist, basically like you name it, I was it in the realm of wanting to continue to do. I didn't really want to upset the apple cart, and really opening that Pandora's box would have. It would have upset many apple carts. And so I kept on doing and giving more of myself in order to try to stave off having to take a look at what was really causing a lot of turmoil. With that being said, I used exercise to cope. I used alcohol to cope. I used doing and people pleasing to cope. And in 2011, my immune system totally shut down. I was suffering from adrenal fatigue at the age of 36, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia those symptoms were starting to set in, massive amounts of anxiety and high functioning depression. At the point that 2011 hit, I was going through this monthly sabotage of give, do, work, and then I would collapse in exhaustion. And I would collapse in exhaustion in the way of an illness, upper respiratory infection, an ear infection, some sort of sinus infection. And so I was going on monthly rounds of antibiotics and steroids to heal my body. Well, what I was doing really was getting myself set up for the next time I would put myself into exhaustion. At month 9, I crashed so hard that I couldn't even walk up my stairs. And so what I was met with, an inability to use my quote unquote normal ways at the time to cope. What I was then faced with was a choice of whether or not I wanted to continue down this path and really erode my health, or did I want to finally start to open the Pandora's box and take a look inside to begin the healing process. And it was then that I actually started. I finally took the first step to realize that what I was doing was no longer working, that the list of what was working in my life was growing extensively, and that even though everybody else in my life seemed like it was, every other facet seemed like it was good, I was not. And so I was finally in the space. I always say that when you're brought down to your knees is when you finally will look up. And in that particular moment in 2011, I was forced down to my knees, and finally came to terms with the fact that what I was doing was not working for me, and it was time to finally start easing my own internal suffering that I had really been avoiding. And so it's been a journey from there. It's been a fantastic journey because what I have rediscovered was the connection to myself. The beauty out of this journey is not only have I reshaped my connection with myself, reshaped how I control my energy, because what I realized in that moment is what I thought I was controlling, I really had zero control. So I was just giving away my energy and myself like I was worthless. I have learned a new way to be. The exciting part is that has rippled. We talk about the ripple effect. That has rippled to my children. It has rippled to my marriage. It has rippled to the people I interact with. It has grown into a business for me where I coach women going through the midlife area who are experiencing the teenage years, but they're also starting to experience that little nagging feeling that something's off. Many of us high achievers, many of the facets of our life are really good. And so finally coming to terms of stopping that nagging, that inner splinter that says something's not right, is beautiful because you start bringing in balance. You start bringing in your own self-value, your own self-care, your own self-love. And that kind of self-compassion ripples. So it's been a fantastic journey. Some of the stuff I had to take a look at, it wasn't so pleasant to look at, but being able to move into that space and really honor that has been very freeing, and has brought my vibrancy back into life. It has brought the zest back. And so it's exciting to not only be able to live in that space and share that space with those people that I love, but to be able to have it ripple outward so that other women can do this for themselves and establish that type of connectedness and vibrancy in their households are huge.
It's resonating so much, like with the clients that I have as well. It's,
Yeah.
women are just, have lost that connection with themselves. So I really thank you for sharing your story with us, and just talking about that area of life, especially with women with teenage kids, or even 40s and 50s who are losing themselves, and know that something's wrong.
Yeah, and societally, we haven't been taught that it's so important to consider ourselves first in the mix. I always think of the journey like a bullseye, and I'm in the center of the bullseye, and then it's my partnership with my husband, and then it's my relationship with my kids, and then it moves outward from there. It's really been the reverse, and when I finally crashed my immune system, was left with no ways to cope except for opening up the box. What I realized is that I was giving my best energy away to everybody on the outer rim, and that my family, who I adore, were getting scraps, and they were getting impatience, and they were getting resentment, and they were getting just kind of the leftover yuck. And what I was left for myself was zero. And so societally, we're really taught that you basically run on fumes and give to everybody else, but at what cost? And what I learned, and that tracked back to restoring my own health, but and restoring my own connection, was that, gosh, if I'm not full, who am I kidding? You know what I mean? And so it started really moving into this space of moving past the faulty thoughts and feelings that putting myself first, or in considering my own needs, desires, wants, as selfish, like that was priority number one. How have I been taught this? What have I been shown? What do I want to believe? Do I want to believe this anymore? And so pulling out of the webbing of not only societal patterns, but these are dysfunctional familial patterns. My mom, she's going to be 70 this year, and this is the year where she has probably set more boundaries in her life than she's ever set. And like I said, it's fantastic to see, because I also know that my own inner work and how I present myself to her and to my family also gives the model, right? I'm not telling her you should be setting boundaries, but she's seeing it in action. And so she'll come to me and say, I set a boundary. Oh my God, it's about time. No, but being able to congratulate that and celebrate it, there's this quiet rumbling underneath the surface of women that are moving into this new age way of matriarchal energy, of really understanding that as we move through whatever type of resistance or whatever type of guilty feelings we have around, saying no, around disappointing another person, around putting our needs, I don't have any more in the tank. There are some days where I say, I don't have any more to give right now. You need to give, let me do X, Y, and Z. Let me do something for myself. Right now, I don't have any more to give, but I promise, if it resonates, I promise that I will get back with you and help you with X, Y, and Z. There are some times where it's no, absolutely no. I don't have that in my schedule. I don't have that availability. Thank you so much for thinking of me. but I don't have it in my availability to do that right now. And so there's this undercurrent of women that are starting to really understand that a full cup, operating from a full cup, actually gives you time, because you're not draining it. You're not just giving it away willy-nilly. It gives you freedom. It gives you sovereignty. You feel quite independent and quite empowered when you are operating from a full cup, because you are fully directing your energy to what feeds you versus what drains you. And like I said, the exciting part is I see it happening in my house. Like my husband's doing it and my kids are doing it. And it's, oh my God, it's just amazing.
It certainly is amazing. It's certainly a mission of mine, is to get people to stop thinking, or get women especially to stop thinking selfish is a bad word. To think being selfish gives you that full cup. It gives you those boundaries. It gets you the energy to be the better person or better version of yourself. So.
It is. And, the interesting part about this journey is, and I always tell everybody, and I tell my clients, I'm probably one of the most stubborn people that you'll meet. And that serves me well in some regards. In the regard of self-care, it didn't serve me well at all for a long period of time, only because I was stuck in this paradigm. And it was something that was taught, right? Generation to generation of, no, you take care of X, Y, and Z. No, you basically like drain yourself. And that's what a true mother is. Mother is sacrifice. I mean, how many times have we heard just the different phrases that are said? I love the concept of modeling, because someone could have told me till the cows come home, you should be putting yourself first. You should be putting yourself first. But unfortunately, and I guess fortunately, right, I am an experiential learner. And I really did have to be brought completely down to my knees in order for that unraveling to happen, so that I could rebuild a new foundation, so that I could finally see that my sabotaging, because it was self-sabotaging behavior of, basically setting myself up by doing, grinding, working, and not honoring what my body was really telling me back in 2011 is it needed a break. Traveling through the energy of why I refused to give myself a break was really interesting, because I had broken through a boatload of family dysfunction. I could see it from my mother. I could see it from my father. It wasn't hard to look at when I was finally ready to look at it. I wasn't ready because I'm stubborn. And not so much now as much as I'm stubborn. I'm stubborn at this point for what is worth holding that energy for. Back in 11, my stubbornness was completely ignorant, and it was ignorant in the webbing of that, because it's a dysfunctional pattern. But it wasn't until, like I said, I was brought down to my own knees that I finally saw that maybe this isn't working. Right?
Yeah, it's the same old story, isn't it? Like you got to hit rock bottom before you'll make the changes. So.
And it's so true. And so, my story isn't one of a collapse on a external level. Mine was a collapse on a completely internal level. Even at my lowest rock bottom point, if you were to look at me, you would have never known that I was having as bad of a struggle and as bad of an internal breakdown as I was having. The only person that had a slight indication that something was very, very, very off was my husband. My kids didn't know. My mom, it was one of those, like, I was kind of like, I've been kind of watching you, but even I say all the time, I say it, in my own story, in my bios, I say it when I talk to my clients, when I give speeches, when I write, that I was the greatest actress ever. That if you got close enough, you could start seeing the cracks in the armor. But again, the rest of my life, it wasn't a rags to riches story or I hit rock bottom and externally lost everything. No, what I did is I cracked so badly on the inside that I was like, I don't think I can stand being in my own skin any longer. I have to figure out a way to remedy this. And so, like I said, it was interesting because if you look at me back in 2011, you'd notice like, yeah, her voice is raspy, and you're like, yeah, she kind of gets sick a lot, and gosh, I wonder why that is. But it wasn't you could look at me and say, oh my gosh, like she really has it. There's something wrong. She really has it bad. It was all on a internal. It was finally, like I said, the box, the lid could no longer stay on. It was time for it to come off, and meeting that was interesting.
That's it. So you've had a few challenges on the way with health and that, and then you've addressed, addressed a lot of the done the internal work. What actually keeps you putting one foot in front of the other then? Do you have a big vision now to get it out there to more women, or is it just, day by day, you just take it day by day?
Interestingly enough, my big vision is for the children of the world. And it is, and what I've discovered in my household is I could lecture my kids on confidence. I can lecture my kids on the importance of boundaries and the importance of self-esteem and the importance of confidence, or empowerment, but I wasn't modeling it to them. What I was modeling that to them was ways to escape my grief by working out for 2 to 3 hours a day. What I was modeling to them back in 2011 was the fact that I couldn't say no and looking for everybody else's approval by always doing for others. Interestingly, as I continued on this journey and really learned how to empower myself, and on this journey, I found my own self-value. And that was really what I was lacking a lot of. My fear of disappointing other people, my need to look good, nice, enough, kind, whatever in other people's eyes. What I have found myself is that when I actually transitioned how I approached my life, how I approached my energy, how I approached my pain, I started being able to direct my energy in a way that was healthy, that honored self-compassion. I wasn't judging myself so harshly. I wasn't keeping my pain from my kids. So I was no longer putting up this facade that everything was okay when it clearly wasn't. And what happened is as their teenage years approached, we started moving into a relationship of mutual respect, communication, and love, versus this traditional parent-child relationship. And so my bigger vision is to help women, because what I'm discovering is that women who have teens are also going through the very similar energy. Teenagers are going through a very similar gateway energy of a change in their life. And their moms are going through something very similar. What I discovered is when I finally got on my own path to my own self-healing, I could actually understand them on a much deeper level. When I understood them on a much deeper level, my outlook on who they were started changing and growing into something a whole lot different, a whole lot healthier, a whole lot more balanced. And what I'm discovering is my own self-healing journey has allowed them to really delve into showing up for their own emotions, showing up for not only in celebrating the positive and the accomplishments and what's going on, but also to be able to show up for when they have self-doubt. How do they show up for themselves when they are sad? How do they show up for themselves when something doesn't go their way? How do they show up for themselves when they're put out of their comfort zone? What I found in my own journey is as I really opened up to that, as I opened up to honoring self-care, self-value, and not only in the means of taking care of myself in my fitness and my nutrition and, externally and things that make me feel good, but how do I honor that internal space as well? And what I found in my own journey is that as I modeled this, I was no longer telling them, I was showing them. And as I was showing them, something fantastic is happening. They set boundaries. I have a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 12-year-old. They set beautiful boundaries. They know who they are. They can talk to one another about their fears. They can talk as a family about what's going on. If they have a concern, they don't have a problem bringing it forward. God, they apologize if they misuse their energy or misspeak, because we're very big in our household on how to consciously live and how to understand one another's energy and give each other space. And nobody's perfect. And there are times where, somebody snaps or says something, but they can be accountable for themselves. And it's really been interesting because they're developing a massive compassion for people they interact with. So, instead of, maybe somebody is interacting in a way that is unhealthy, instead of being like, oh God, like they're a total jerk or whatever, they might honor the fact that they might be triggered by their behavior, but they're moving into this space of having more compassion for them. Maybe they don't know any better. Maybe their household is X, Y, and Z. And so what's happening is in my greater vision is to help women who are ready to step into that balanced internal and external facets of their life. I refer to it as the Soul Five, which is fitness, nutrition, mindset, healing, and emotional intelligence in the way of self-compassion. When we start to activate and implement those, what happens is we start releasing self-judgment. We start releasing that need to be perfect. We start releasing that need to control everything. We start to set boundaries. We start to honor our energy and value ourselves fully. And when the Soul Five is activated and modeled, their kids pick it up. And it just keeps on going outward and outward and outward. And it's been fantastic. I see teens as clients, and it's fantastic to watch the interplay as they really, because our teenagers are really awakening at a much quicker pace than we are. Many of us are hitting that midlife or that big gateway opportunity in our midlife. Our teens are hitting it now. And to be able to have parents that can usher that energy in versus squashing it down. Because I always say you can squash it down, it's just going to reappear in your midlife. Like, I tell my boys, I'm like, you want to deal with these, you want to really, work through and heal these now, because if you decide to shove it down, it'll pop up in your midlife. Like, your next gateway opportunity to really evolve on a compassionate self-awareness, self-mastery basis. I said, you can do it now, or you can kick the can down the curb. You're going to get another opportunity. It'll be harder.
So true. I love that. That's awesome. So what's exciting about the future for you?
Letting go of the resistance around not having the bandwidth to expand. Interestingly, because my family, so I started writing a blog earlier this year and really starting to share my knowledge around the family dynamics and how I've worked with my own teens to help them understand themselves fully, help them really expand themselves. There is always this fear, or there always has been this fear, because it's something that I've consciously worked through and moved through, of do I have enough bandwidth to feed my own dream and still be there fully, presently for my boys, be there fully, presently for my husband, for our relationship. And for a long period of time, I had this fear or this faulty thought that I couldn't have both. I couldn't have my own expansion and my own passions and still be a good mom, still be a good wife. And so it's been really interesting to outsource some things and then move through that energy of feeling guilty around outsourcing it, right? Mm-hmm. It's been interesting to hire on people and spend the time to not only spend the time to train them, but develop that trust. That trust that, because I say I'm a reformed control freak. So control is part of something that I will work with my entire life. The need to control, the ability to control is something that I will work with forever and ever. Amen. And so this has been that next level of, where is it safe for me to start letting the lead out so that other people can help? Because that's another thing. Being a recovered control freak, asking for help on the other side of that it could be very challenging. And so that has been, like I said earlier, new level, new devil. As I expand, I realize I cannot do it myself, nor should I want to. And I functioned for a very long period of time before my crash of, I am an island, I don't need anybody's help. So it has been very interesting to expand in this way, personally and professionally, because my business and my businesses are an extension of me personally. But to be able to expand in a way that I don't break or neglect myself and those that I love in the process. So it's a matter of always understanding that there's a possibility of backsliding into old ways. So it's constantly checking and going like, okay, am I still good? Okay, I'm good. Still doing good? Okay, still doing good. And then moments of knowing that the first moment or the first sign that I feel exhausted or the first sign that I feel like I want to throw in the towel, that is a huge leading indicator for me to pull back and literally just focus on me, whether it be, going to get a massage or going to meditate or going for a walk or sitting and watching a movie. You know what I mean? Just something that understanding the signs of when the bandwidth is expanding too much.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. All right, let's have a change in pace and we'll do the speed round.
Okay.
Here we go. What's your favorite book?
My favorite book. One of my favorite books is Get Rich Lucky Bitch by Denise Duffield Thomas. Yeah. One of my absolute favorites because it really helps us delve into what we've been telling ourselves about money in relationship to abundance. And I think it's been fascinating to not only read the book, but to invest in her course because there's so much energy to move through around it.
Who's a mentor figure that's helped you the most?
There's a couple of mentors that I have absolutely adored and been so blessed to have along the path. I actually attend a school of spiritual studies in near Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. And the teachers down there have been fantastic in the realm of self-mastery and in the realm of really going into that like bottom of the basement barrel, dark stuff. Basically our own shadows that we like to sabotage ourselves with. Some of them have been phenomenal. Denise Duffield Thomas is a fantastic mentor. I've invested in both of her courses. They've been absolutely mind-blowingly wonderful. Leonie Dawson, her academy has been fantastic as well.
So what daily ritual works best for you?
My daily ritual is I actually get up. I don't even get up. When I wake, when I re-enter into the world and wake, I go into gratitude. I think about the day. I think about what I'd like my day to look like. Our thoughts create our reality. And so directing our energy in that way is really, really important. So I like to start the day off by being grateful for being back here and thinking about the day and really sending my entire day and the outlook of the day with positivity. Daily rituals that are must-dos are meditating, whether or not I spend 10 minutes in a meditation or I go into something deeper. A daily meditation practice is a must. I read 15 minutes of a personal development book. Right now I'm reading Brendon Burchard's 6 Habits of High Achievers, and then a workout. And then what I like to do is spend time in some way, shape, or form with each member in my family. I like to reconnect with my husband and go for a walk with him and just talk about whatever. I love my 3 boys are very different. They're very different in their interests. They're very different in how they move throughout the day. And so I like connecting with them in a way that speaks to them. They each receive energy differently. They each communicate in a totally different way. So, for example, my youngest son is a gifts person and he got a gift card for his birthday. So I took him up to Target so that he could go and look around to see what he wanted to spend. My middle son is an acts of service kid. And so I actually went and got him a speaker for his workout room that he wanted. My oldest is an affirmation. And so he is going through a very big week of expansion. So I sat down with him and really talked up how I admire his ability to move through all this uncomfortable energy because he needs to hear that. So on a daily basis, I'm not only hitting my own self-care and making sure that wheelhouse is taken care of, but I'm also making sure to connect with those people that I love in a way that they receive it.
Oh, that's awesome. Do Do you have a piece of advice you can give to others to help them make change in their life?
It really boils down to many people know what their strengths and weaknesses are. Many people know what they're good at. Many people know how to attain a goal. What I'm finding is that many people don't understand how they want to feel. And so my biggest piece of advice is to connect with how you would like to feel, and then start to begin to unravel the areas and things, commitments, people in your life that are disallowing that feeling from happening. It is not the other person that's disallowing it. It's we all make our own choices. So this is a matter of taking personal responsibility for choice. But however, it's important to understand when we've made a consistent amount of choices because we think we have to, versus actually beginning to honor how we feel about the commitment in the first place. You know, many people that I work with are struggling in this space and time of, you know, what do they want to do? What do they want to do? And it's not necessarily that they do want to do something different, but they do want to feel something different. So my biggest piece of advice would be always consider how you want to feel, and then align that feeling with, and then start to compare it. Start to compare what is happening in your life in the areas of your life, and is that feeling, are you getting that feeling when you are in your career? Are you getting that feeling in your relationship? Are you getting that feeling in your daily existence? And what steps can you take to start to turn the needle more towards that feeling? Because that's really where joy starts to begin, is when you really start to honor not only wanting to feel that way, but honoring movement towards feeling that way. Because we can want it till the cows come home until we actually take action to move towards it. But when we do finally move and take the steps towards that feeling, that is where that contentment and that joy and that inner peace resides. That's really where true freedom and empowerment is.
Yeah, so true. Great advice.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your valuable time today, Tracey, and sharing your story. I've absolutely loved it. Loved everything that you've said today. So would you like to give us the best place to contact you, and we'll end it there?
The best place to contact me would be actually two places. You could visit my website at www.traceygromen.net, or you could visit my blog at www.soulheartedlife.net, which is where I have all of my writings around my family dynamics, how I've healed, how I have gone through my own healing process, and how that healing process has impacted and rippled out to my family in a positive light.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Leanne. It was great.
Igniters, Tracey is a reformed control freak who understands about resistance and stuffing down your emotions. Being brave to open Pandora's box to take the steps to heal is so essential in rediscovering who you are. If you want to contact Tracey, go to her website www.traceygromen.net. To help in gaining back your independence so you can have joy and happiness in your life, go to my website www.leanneblaney.com, where you can grab a copy of my book Balance, Adventure School for Women.